Good evening. I would like to call this meeting of the Naperville Township Board of Trustees to order. Would everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
We'll go ahead and do a roll call. Our clerk is not here with us this evening, so I will go ahead and do the roll call. Anderson?
Here.
Malm?
Here.
Santucci?
Here.
Wagner?
Here.
Osira? Here. Okay, so we do have a quorum. We are able to do business, and the first item of business that we need to do is to appoint a temporary deputy clerk. And I would like to nominate Trustee Malm.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay, I will call the roll. Anderson?
Yes.
Malm?
Yes.
Santucci?
Yes.
Wagner?
Yes.
Osira? Yes. Okay, and so Trustee Malm is also our temporary deputy clerk tonight. And if you could record what we just did. Okay, great. That's wonderful. Are there any addenda to the agenda? Okay, there don't appear to be any addenda to the agenda, so we'll move on to public comments. There were sign-up sheets out front for public comments. Usually the clerk collects those. We don't have the clerk with us this evening. So did anybody have any public comments, any sign-up sheets for public comment? All right, then we'll move on to the consent agenda. Item 7. So the first thing we need to do is to establish the consent agenda, which is the approval of the September 13th regular meeting open session minutes, acceptance of the third quarter reports for social service providers, 360 Youth Services, and Ecumenical Adult Care, and the annual review and approval of our identity protection policy, and the annual review and approval of our identity theft policy. Is there a motion to establish?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, please call the roll.
Anderson?
Yes.
Malm? Yes. Santucci?
Yes.
Wagner?
Yes.
Osira?
Yes. All right. So we have established the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay. Please call the roll.
Anderson?
Yes.
Malm? Yes. Santucci?
Yes.
Wagner?
Yes.
Osira?
Yes. Okay. All right. So the consent agenda is approved. We have no presentations this evening, so we will move on to old business here. The first item of old business is a familiar one. It's to discuss the 2016 Ride DuPage PACE Paratransit Local Share Agreement. Once again, I've provided a summary update to the board. You know, it's the same summary that you've received in the past, except the portion that's added on at the very end of the write-up. What we discussed last month was trying to get the partners back together, and also to try to find out what the status of payments was from the different partners and what the liability might be, you know, if we were to sign the agreement and not everybody was paying. So as you can see there, what we've determined is that Lisle Township and Naperville Township are paying their PACE invoices in full. And as a result of that, we're now starting to receive the Ride DuPage to Work grant reimbursements. Wheatland Township is only paying their invoices at the 13.28% rate of the total share. So they're basically short paying their invoices. They're paying it in line with what their board approved as their budget. So there's an unpaid balance that's accumulating at PACE. Whether or not PACE is noticing that there's an unpaid balance at this point, I'm not sure. You know, they tend to operate a little bit slowly. I've asked Pace and the city to advise what the implications might be for Naperville Township for one of the other partners underpaying. And so far, we've heard back, well, we don't think there'd be any implications, but that has not been said to us in writing. So we've asked for further clarification. Frankly, I doubt that we'll ever receive that clarification before the calendar year is over. That just doesn't seem to be the way that Pace operates, that they would provide that to us. Let me come back to that point. I have set up a meeting with the other township partners on October 24th. Supervisor Taroulas, Supervisor Kern, and myself are getting together. And what I've asked that we discuss is the 2016 agreement and how we can just bring that to closure, and then let's get into what we're going to do for 2017. We seem to be on a common page a few months ago about that, and we certainly want to have that discussion and land it before anybody, establishes budgets and starts to do things that would lock them into a position. So we are set up for that meeting. I'm hopeful about that. We are getting feedback from citizens, though. There have been citizens, who use these services that have contacted me, who've contacted my staff, who've shown up at some of the city council meetings, who've gone to the disability council meeting, just asking questions. Why isn't this getting signed? Why isn't this happening? We provide a lot of assurance to people. Hey, don't worry. This is a timing issue. I don't believe the program's in any danger whatsoever. There's no structural issue. It's a timing issue with boards and budgets and things like that. So, having said that, while Steve isn't here at this moment, what I do want to do, what I am going to ask him, if the board thinks it's appropriate, is I really would like to have us sign the 2016 partnership agreement. If we could just write a disclaimer, that he could write for us a disclaimer, that despite what other partners, may do or sign or not do, that we're not held liable for that, but that we want to go ahead and sign the agreement. So that's what I'm going to ask him if we can do. That's what I would like to do. Any questions from the board? Okay. All right, thank you. All right, the next item is 9.2, report on personal property disposal progress. So back at our June meeting, we approved a resolution to authorize the sale and disposal of certain township personal property that we found to be in surplus. In accordance with that resolution, my office undertook certain steps to sell that property. It totaled 38 items. We're basically talking about office furniture and some file cabinets. So the first thing that we did is we sent out an email to other local units of government, offering out the items for sale, and if they could contact us to make an offer. And you can see on the memo that I sent out that we approached at least 8 different local units of government. We felt local is the thing to do because we're not going to ship this stuff to anybody. We need them to come here and pick it up. We've had no response to that as of this time. We went ahead and put everything on eBay on an online auction, photographs, descriptions. The auctions go for 10 days at a time. After, probably about 70 days on eBay, we've sold 8 items for $88.25, less the 10% fee. We've got 30 items that remain unsold. About a month ago, 4 weeks ago, we reduced the prices of the items by 50% because there hadn't been any fresh interest. And in the meantime, since we've done that, 3 of the items have been viewed, no bids have been made, and we're pretty much at the end of the auction, maybe tomorrow or the next day. So that's where we're at. So what we have found is that, we've taken the steps, we've put it out there, and we've sold what we think we can sell through this process. We just don't think we can sell anymore. So due to lack of interest from the online auction, I'm recommending to the board that we close that after the remainder of the days expire, which will be any day now, and that we pursue another course of action to dispose of the surplus property. And I've got a couple of options listed. One would be to just communicate through our website or other reasonable means to members of the public that we, have these items for purchase at the same price they were listed on eBay, FOB our door. Obviously, no one with any connection to us personally would be permitted to purchase these or donate them to local not-for-profits, again, FOB our door. So that's our finding of fact, and that's my recommendation. And Steve, are we legally able to move forward in those directions?
Based on the way the ordinance is written, we have
Yeah.
flexibility in our methods of disposing of the property.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any limitation to what, I know you put on your website, I've used this called Naperville Sale, which is kind of like a, if I'm looking for something or to sell something, and it's been quite effective, and it's free.
Yeah.
So I can give
yeah,
you that email
yeah,
or that
other
website
means.
and just
Sure.
put it on there.
Buku.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Any of those outlets,
Right.
anything you can do. I did suggest, and Rachel, I think, is doing right now what we both thought was the prudent thing to do, which was to report back to you to tell you that we were going to go in a different direction.
Right, and we found our facts, right. And, I said our website, obviously people don't come to our website looking to purchase things, but certainly any outlet like that, and we've got everything cataloged, we've got everything photographed, it would be very easy for us to do it. So, if we have something that's community-wide, any channels like that are community-wide. And I would recommend to the board that, we take both of these courses of action at the same time. We can let our not-for-profit community know that we have items available, and we can put it out there. Also, my personal observation is the market for used furniture is somewhat saturated. People are, there's a lot of office buildings in Naperville, and the furniture turns over frequently, it seems. So we're going to have to, I think, push all of these channels to to make sure that the items are appropriately used. So do we need to take a motion here, Mr. Adams?
Actually, I don't know that you have to.
Okay.
I think if the board's consensus is to allow you as the supervisor to continue your efforts through the various channels you've just described to sell the property, that's adequate.
Okay. So it seems like from
I agree.
what I'm seeing around the table. Okay. And certainly if you have other thoughts along those lines, just, let me know what your thoughts are, any channels that you're aware of. All right. Okay, then the next item, 9.3, is to approve the fiscal year 2017-2018 budget development timeline and guidelines. We took a preliminary look at this last month. I've worked on it further. I spent considerable time with the assessor, who's not here this evening, going through it as well. And I just really want to hit the highlights with everyone. So if we look at the high-level assumptions, expenditures in the supervisor's area, general assistance, we're assuming pretty much a steady demand for general assistance, continuing to be strong with the situations that we have going on in the state with the reduction in assistance from the state through various programs. So we're anticipating a similar level of budget request that we had last year, about $231,000. For administration, there's a number of things that, when I look at it from the bottom up, lead to estimating a reduction in our budget request. And I inadvertently didn't fill it in, the last bullet point under administration. I'm estimating that our budget request for fiscal year 2017-18 would be about $997 plus a $50,000 contingency. That's a reduction of about $175,000 from this year in the administration area, so the town fund administration area. And you can see a number of reasons up above around continuing to improve productivity, realigning staff with, realigning staff functions. I just had 2 people retire that I'm not budgeting to replace. I think we can do that through volunteers and through interns, that particular work. And not anticipating the type of legal fees that we've had this year. And also working on benchmarking and implementing best practices. So all of those things lead toward being able to confidently, project that we can reduce our costs, and expect to do more in the future as well. I've talked to the assessor. Again, he's not here this evening, and he is looking at a 5 to 6% reduction in the assessor's budget, which is a reduction of about $44,000. So overall, looking at the town fund in total, looking at a reduction of about almost $220,000 for the budget. I realize we don't do the budget till next year, but it's hard to do a levy without doing a budget estimate first. So that's how we do our work. We do it from the bottom up. So we'd be looking, again, at about a $220,000 reduction in the budget with the same levels of contingency, so moving from about $1,909,000 type of budget level of expenditure for the town fund to around $1,775,000. Any questions about that? So if we go over to the revenue side, the next page, this is where we look at our revenue projections. One thing we do have to remember and keep in mind is that there was a misallocation of PPRT by the state over the last couple of years, and as I mentioned, they're likely to take that out of our property tax revenues next spring. So we certainly have that in mind. We're assuming that we'll continue to get our grants for Ride DuPage to work. We're assuming a similar level of expenses for Ride DuPage. And you can see from what we extended as property taxes this year, what the maximum tax would be that we could levy next year while in compliance with the property tax limitation law. So it would be last year's extension plus new building plus 0.7%. So it would be a little over $2,063,000. However, with the work that we've done on the estimated budget, we're actually looking at reducing our property tax levy. So cutting the levy by $200,000, $1,745,400. We've levied $1,945,400 for the last couple of years, and we've abated that levy. We abated it last year, this year, by $230,000, and we abated it the previous year by $450,000. That was done really to get fund balances where they needed to be, down to target levels. And with having done that level of abatement, looking at what we're looking at, doing a bottoms up look at the budget, very comfortable to cut the levy. And that's, as you know, a cut is a permanent thing, unless you go to a referendum to try to get it back. So that's a big step, and that's what I'm recommending that we do based on these fundamentals. So that's what's in the guidelines here. That would put us at our targeted reserve levels. And then the next part of the guidelines is the meeting schedule, or our meeting schedule, as well as certain deadlines for things. And there's nothing different here than what I presented last month, but there's just a couple things I want to point out. November 1st would be when we want to adopt our levy ordinance. That would be our truth in taxation public hearing, which we really don't need because we're not raising our levy. But I always like to have it on there. And the board adoption or approval of the levy ordinance itself. And then we'd be looking at doing our budget workshop on January 7th, and then our provisional budget on February 14th, and then the actual budget hearing itself on April 5th. So I'm just going to give it to you all at a glance. Any questions about that?
So you said budget adoption 4/5?
Yeah. And of course, we have, all through until the end of that quarter, but we usually plan on doing it in April.
Right.
So that you run with an approved budget, as much as you can, because our fiscal year is April 1st. Any questions about the guidelines? I'd like to ask the board to approve the guidelines. It doesn't mean you're approving the budget. It just means that you're, approving this as a set of guidelines that will steer us going forward.
I'll make that motion to approve the guidelines.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, please call the roll.
Anderson?
Yes.
Malm, yes. Santucci?
Yes.
Wagner?
Yes.
Alciera?
Yes. Okay, so the guidelines are approved. All right, we'll move into new business. The first item of new business is to approve an ordinance regulating travel, meal, and lodging expenses in accordance with the Local Government Expense Control Act. And so we've talked about this at previous meeting. You now have it before you. This was a template that we received from our attorney, recently adapted for ourselves. And this all came about with legislation that was passed and signed by the governor this summer. The Local Government Travel Expense Control Act. It will become effective January 1st. But pursuant to that act, we have to establish regulations around travel, meal, and lodging expenses. And so therefore, once it's in place, we will only approve reimbursement of expenses of an employee, a board member, or an elected official that submits the township's reimbursement request form. So there's a form attached to the policy where you document, what was the purpose, and you provide all the documentation that's requested. This is all part of the act, and it's all reflected here. We will continue to use our claims to the treasurer, but this will accompany the claim to the treasurer. And then it also specifies that expenses for travel, meals, and lodging for any staff member or any employee that would exceed the maximum allowed under the ordinance. And so you'll find under there are maximum alloweds for different things. Any employees whose expense exceeds that will have to come before the board through a roll call vote. And any member of the Board of Trustees or elected officials who have travel, meals, or lodging expense, whether they're within the guideline or not, has to come before the board for a roll call vote. So we will have to roll call vote on all elected official travel expenses. Right. And this is all part of the act. So it's pretty brief and to the point. You'll see in there maximum reimbursable rates for, travel is IRS standard, meals, and then lodging, just depending upon where it is. And that doesn't mean that we wouldn't approve more. We would just have to be given information that would indicate that was necessary. And that could certainly be the case from time to time.
Rachel, did you say employees and all trustees also go through the roll call vote if we exceed?
Employees only if they exceed,
And the trustees regardless?
regardless.
Okay, thank you.
Regardless. That's what's specified in the
But you
act.
said, I'm sorry, you said all elected officials, so not just
Right.
trustees,
Right.
assessor,
Right, and we
Highway
said it
commissioner.
both ways just because of the way that the act is worded.
Okay.
It talks about the governing body
okay.
as a separate group
Separate.
of people from officers. So the trustees are the governing body. The trustees and myself are the governing body. And then it also talks about officers. So we put it, which includes all elected officials. So we put it in there. It might seem redundant
Right.
with regard to the trustees, but that's just why it's done that way. And it goes into effect, we would adopt, it goes into effect March 2nd, 2017, the law does. It goes into effect at that time.
60 days after.
Right. But I guess we could start using it any
Approve it now and
any
put it in
time.
place whenever you want. That's the latest date you want to have it in place.
So there's no reason to delay. Is there,
I have a question.
Yeah.
About the maximum reimbursable rate for lodging
yes.
for the city and Cook County. Should there be any, and I'm assuming this is what was in the law that was passed, but should we put any parameters around not to exceed $250 a night? I realize Cook County is more expensive.
Yeah,
but
I didn't put anything in there because I felt like it just, oh, I see what you're saying, put a cap on it.
put a cap on it. And so
Yeah.
there would be some kind of a mechanism to
Sure,
have
sure.
an upper end on it.
Yeah.
I would say not to put the cap on it because then people will always go with the highest. So let them come before there. Let's use good judgment as you would in your businesses or your homes. And if a seminar or was held at a certain place and you needed to be at that hotel and it was more, you're coming to the board for approval anyway. So I would approve that if that was why you should stay there. But I think just people tend to always just pick
Well,
the higher one or wherever the most convenient. But is look at what's right and then come to
Disagree
the
with the
board.
premise that people will always err to the more expensive. I'm under certain guidelines by my own company, and we go to $250 per night, and many times I'm at the $150 night because it's more convenient or what have you. So,
The
The
reason,
other effect of this, if I can just comment, is that if you don't set a cap, then all of your staff people will be coming before you for
Yeah,
approval
sure.
by the board.
I was just hesitant to put something in there originally because I couldn't think of any good reason why we would ever stay overnight in that
local,
area.
Right.
Shouldn't be in Chicago or
But I also understand what you're saying. I understand what everybody's saying.
Well, if there was a multiple day conference that had early morning meetings, then
Yeah,
a night stay
It's a rare
might be.
situation, but maybe we should put a number in.
We also are eligible for state rate at these
Yes, right.
lodging places.
Right.
so
maybe that's the,
The
Yes,
state rate should
government
never be
rate.
anywhere near 250.
well, maybe
No,
that should be.
I looked online, I did some searches online under state rates, and it would, 200 was kind of,
Right.
was the number there.
What are other townships doing or other government bodies?
As many options and variations as there are districts almost. I mean, everybody's got a kind of a different take. I've had a lot of districts and townships that have struggled with this exact category for these same reasons that you talked about. Because of the huge variance in rates available downtown versus in the suburbs. I've seen some districts break that out so that you've got a outside of or suburban area versus downtown.
Which we've done.
Which, not all districts have, but some do. And then, for your lodging, you just have Chicago and suburban, and then you have the lesser rate for the collar counties, which is, I think, a good way to approach it. And then it's just really a question of, do you have something that you have a comfort level with in terms of a cap for the downtown rate? But I think everything else I'm seeing in your schedule looks very consistent with what I've seen elsewhere. Like lowest available coach rate for air travel, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
That's a good
I
way
can't
to set
imagine
that.
why we would ever pay for someone to go on a air travel.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I would also think we don't, I mean, compared to maybe park districts or other units of government that are much bigger, who do a lot of conferences, we're
Right.
probably not as much. We have fewer
Right.
employees.
Right.
So I kind of like to hear what, or I would think as a taxpayer board member, I'd like to hear where they are going. And I know you do report that, but it's good for them to come let us know the purposes why and.
Right, right.
Certainly within your
I mean,
prerogative
we're
to
not
do
gonna,
that.
right.
Well, I'm hearing some legal advice and some practical advice, suggestion that we select a number for Chicago and suburban Cook County. Trustee Anderson had raised the concern about, well, gee, you know, let's be careful so that people don't go up to the cap. And I think with proper management guidance that will not happen, because a manager always has to approve a trip anyway before anything can happen at all. So it might be very practical for us to go ahead and put in a number on that one. I don't think we should put in anything outside of Illinois. Very rare should we ever need to go outside of Illinois. The assessor
The assessor
does.
has
The assessor
a few
does.
times.
And that's a different matter. He's an elected official, and
That will
it's just hard to
automatically
come up with a number for that. It just
Right.
be very cheap,
all
or
over
it
the
could be
board,
expensive. Is $200, I did some work online. I did some searching on government max rates and that was where it pretty much came out. I'd feel really uncomfortable with anything higher than 200.
200.
Okay,
Yeah. I think that's reasonable.
okay. Any other discussion? Could someone make a motion to approve the ordinance regulating travel, meal, and lodging expenses as modified for the Chicago and suburban Cook County maximum reimbursable rate to be $200?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Anderson?
Yes.
Malm? Yes. Santucci?
Yes.
Wagner?
Yes.
Osira?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay. Then we will move on to item 10.2, which is to approve resolution for fiscal year 2017-2018 estimated township taxes of $1,745,400. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Okay, any discussion? You know, the rationale for it we discussed while we did the budget guidelines. We went through the numbers, but you see them in the memo before you. It's a reduction of 10.3%. Okay. Please call the roll.
Anderson?
Yes.
Malm? Yes. Santucci?
Yes.
Wagner?
Yes.
Osira?
Yes. All right.
Motion passed.
So we have unanimously passed the resolution for estimated township taxes of a $200,000 reduction. Brings us to item 10.3, approve resolution for fiscal year 2017-18 for estimated township road district taxes of $1,691,000.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
A second.
Any discussion? Okay, please call the roll.
Anderson?
Yes.
Malm? Yes. Santucci?
Yes.
Wagner?
Yes.
Osira?
Yes. Unanimously approved. Brings us to item 10.4, approve road district transfer of appropriation of $15,000 in the Road and Bridge Fund. Is there a motion to approve this?
I'll move to approve.
Second?
Any discussion? Okay, please call the roll.
Anderson?
Yes.
Malm? Yes. Santucci?
Yes.
Wagner?
Yes.
Osira?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Motion passes. Item 10.5 is to approve the road district transfer appropriation of $10,000 in the Road and Bridge Fund.
Motion to approve.
Okay. Is there a
To
motion
approve.
to approve? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay. Please call the roll.
Anderson?
Yes.
Mull? Yes. Santucci?
Yes.
Wagner?
Yes.
Lucero?
Yes.
Sure,
all right.
who she
So
was.
unanimously
Just
approved.
gotta take the hat off, put the other hat on.
Oh, I know.
Mal,
I know.
Mal.
Who's that person? Be quiet, Steve.
All right.
Zip it over there.
We will move on now to elected official reports, and the first report is our township assessor. As I mentioned, family illness has kept the assessor from being with us this evening. He did send me a note with his report, so I'm going to read that. And he said that today was our last day to file and to appeals. And to date, we have had only 35 appeals, and that is a record low.
Wow, that's awesome.
So, yeah, so he wanted to share that with everyone. Yes. Okay. And so we'll move on to our highway commissioner, Commissioner Watasi.
No report tonight.
Okay, thank you. And the town clerk is not here, and so my report is next. We had the Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise Senior Conference on September 16th. It was part of the Triad programs. It was fabulous. We had over 300 people attend the program. Our staff, as usual, did a really great job putting that together. Want to give a personal shout out to Jenny Dawley for leading the preparations for that. We also have a new volunteer joining us for Medicare counseling. Debbie Freeman is coming in. She's an attorney, a local attorney. She'll be doing counseling 1 or 2 days a week. She's learning right now, but open enrollment starts soon, so we're very, very happy to have her on board. The township newsletter was published in early September. I think when we last met, it had been published. I don't know if it had been distributed yet at that point. We had 5,000 copies printed and distributed at different points around the community. Usually we mail that out, but because of our higher legal costs, we are not doing that this time around. Actually, going forward, we want to try to use electronic means and other distribution channels rather than mailing to try to get this out into the community. I need to do more work developing those channels, because the newsletter we always get really great feedback about it and that people use the information. So we need to keep developing those channels so that we get it out there, we push it out there. It is on our website. We do have more copies, so board members, elected officials, if you're going somewhere and you think it would be helpful to pass those out, come on in and take some with you. We do have plenty of them. I did have someone from the Eola Community Center call me. They saw our newsletter over there, and they were just amazed at the quality of the information and how helpful it was. And they hadn't seen it before or looked at it before. I know they've received it, but they were just asking about it and how it had been put together. So we want to keep that going, but through different channels. And I mentioned earlier, we had 2 staff retire. Our veterans advocate, Mike Barber, retired. And he was a very unique individual, wore a lot of different hats. And it was a real benefit to the township to have him here and get a lot of things launched in the community. And a lot of things are up and running now. Naperville Response for our veterans, directories showing where veteran services are available. He is continuing to perform a lot of his roles in the community with the VFW and with the American Legion. So at this time, I'm not looking to hire a staff replacement, but looking instead for a really solid volunteer to come in and really help make some of the type of connections that Mike had made. And same with the communications role that Jan Barber had been doing. We really are going in a direction of social media, electronic communications, and so perfect role, for an intern to come in and fulfill. So that's the direction that I'm looking in. But certainly, if there was anybody to be hired, it has to come before this board for you to approve. But at this time, I'm not looking at that and do not intend to budget for it. So that is basically my report. And I'll ask the trustees. Trustee Anderson, any report?
No report.
Okay, Trustee Mom.
Oh, I just attended a couple of the chamber, the luncheon and the legislative this month, so they were good.
Okay, very good. Trustee Santucci
No report.
and Trustee Wagner.
No report.
And our township attorney, Mr. Adams.
No report tonight.
Okay. Everybody must want to go watch the Cubs or something.
No.
Audit of our bills and claims. Typically we would, during the meeting, be finishing up any signatures, but those signatures were all done individually in advance, so I believe the audit of bills and claims is done. Is that correct? Okay.
Correct.
Okay, so then that takes us to item 13.1, which is to approve the town fund bills and claims for the month of September 2016 in the amount of in the amount listed, if somebody could make a motion in the
I'll
amount.
make that,
Okay,
go ahead. I'll make that motion to approve the town fund bills and claims in the amount of $145,277.63.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion?
That's okay.
I'm not hearing any discussion, so please call the roll.
Anderson.
Yes.
Malm. Yes. Santucci.
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Osira.
Yes.
I move to approve the road fund bills and claims in the amount of $95,264.99.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, please call the roll.
Anderson.
Yes.
Malm. Yes. Santucci.
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
All right.
Osira.
Yes. And so the road fund bills and claims are approved. There is no closed session this evening. We have nothing left to approve returning from closed session, so we have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.